Okay, a question that I get from a ton of you is, where do I start if I want to start a podcast? And I love when answers are simpler than we expect them to be. So I want to tell you about a resource that's changed the game for us with our podcast, and that is Spotify for podcasters. If you want to start your own podcast, Spotify has a platform that makes it so easy. You upload your episodes and then Spotify actually distributes it everywhere onto all platforms and even helps you earn money so that it can be profitable for you and a blessing for you, your family, your people. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit your podcast literally from your phone or your computer. So if you don't have a fancy setup, it's okay. You can immediately get started today. Then again, you distribute it to Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are available. You can also do video podcasts, which sounds like a dream to me. And when you want to take conversations with your people to the next level, you can do Q&A and polls, all sorts of fun things. You can earn money with ads and podcast subscriptions, or you can just get started using what you've got for the good of others and the glory of God. Check out Spotify for Podcasters. I use it. I love it. I highly recommend it. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app. I have it on my phone, highly suggest, or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started today. Hey friends, you're listening to the Go and Tell Gals podcast with Jess Connolly. Here, we like to equip and encourage women who run on mission. This podcast is for you if you are a mom working in an office, if you are a college student, if you are a doctor. Whatever your profession, whatever your vocation, whatever your season of life, we believe God has given you gifts to use for the good of others and the glory of God. And we pray you leave this podcast feeling encouraged and ready to go. We're so glad you're here. Do you ever get caught up in thinking about your own destiny or your potential, or wondering how in the world you're going to make a mark? Do you ever wonder what you're here for, what you're made for, what God is calling you to, how and if and where He is going to use you? What if I told you that you actually don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to be used to change the world at all? What if I told you there is 100% chance that you are absolutely going to change the world today? What would you do? How would you live? How would you act? How would you move in this world? 1 Peter 2:9 says, "You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light." In 2011, I went through this debilitating season where I struggled with depression and despair. And on top of seeing a doctor and a licensed therapist, I also committed to read 1 Peter 2:9 over myself every day. I said, if this is what God believes, this is what I want to say about myself. And the truth is, friend, you change the world when you walk into work. You change the world when you love your kids. You change the world when you greet your neighbors. You change the world when you post on social media. You change the world when you drive your car, when you go to the store. You change the world just by showing up in it. You can't even help it. You shift the spiritual atmosphere. You change the lives of the people around you just by interacting with them, just by validating them and seeing them and loving them or not. You change the world in the ways that you speak to people. You change the world in the ways that you spend your money. You are already changing the world. And so what if you stopped stressing over your positioning, your capacity, and your destiny, and decided that those things are up to God, and instead you want to use what you've got for the good of others and the glory of God? What if you spent your energy not spinning your wheels and trying to figure out how you'd change the world, but moving into the places where you already are with authority and compassion and kindness and conviction, believing that the power and the presence of God that was purchased for you on the cross of Christ goes with you into those spaces? You already changing the world. You cannot help it. What if you believed it? What if you made agreements with 1 Peter 2:9, this good word that says you are chosen by God, set aside to magnify his glorious grace and his character. You're his special possession, bought with a price. And here's the reminder that God does not purchase what he does not give purpose to. What if you used your time, your energy to declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness and brought you into this space? What if you agreed that the boundary lines have fallen for you in pleasant places, that you are changing the world, and worked to use what you've got to do that for his glory? Great news. You don't have to wonder if you're going to change the world. You don't have to wonder if your life is going to mean something. You don't have to get stressed about your destiny and your potential and what it is that you're here for. You are here to declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness and into marvelous light. You're here to glorify God, to magnify him, to worship him along the way, to use what you've got to enjoy his presence, but also to bring it into the spaces where you're called. God is mighty in you. You are already changing the world. You are listening to the Go and Tell Gals podcast. You can find us at goandtellgals.com online or Go and Tell Gals on Instagram or Facebook. We would be so honored if you had a minute to leave a review wherever you've listened to this episode. Share it with your friends and let us know that you're listening. We're so grateful for you. God is mighty in you.